Welcome back to the Authentic Human Podcast, where we explore consciousness, creation, existence, and evolution from the inside. So today is part 97 of the story of creation, and I'm Michelle Vickers. Let's see what universal beings are here to share with us for part 97. Okay, so I have got Gosh, it's really cool. So Jesus is here today, which we haven't seen him for a little bit, so that's cool. Um, but also, it's interesting. They're showing me different. Oh, okay. I'm seeing a bunch of insects. So that's different. But we're going to talk about the spread of disease today. Totally did not. Yeah, this is super fun. It's like, here, Michelle, let's throw you in. So, okay. So we're gonna start with the okay, well, let's just jump all the way in. So we're gonna start with ticks. And specifically, they want to talk about the behavior of ticks. Why? But this is gonna be good. It's always an adventure. So ticks they're colonized. And what they mean by colonized is they're a universal creation. However, they've been infected, is the word they're using, by um it's really weird. It's tricky because I've never used these, like I've never seen this before. So just bear with me. It's going to take me a few more minutes to get the right words, okay? It might be a little bit slow, but it will come out in the end, okay? So ultimately, colonized means impacted by human existence. And there's a difference between being impacted in the sense of they impact humans, but what they're showing me is humans impacted their behavior. So this isn't just evolution, this is actual reactions to their. So, why they were impacted by humans is because humanity, not human, well, some humans, okay, so a collective of humans, a group of humans, wanted to participate in mass warfare, is really what it comes down to. And so what happened is they injected a variety of viruses. Now, this is really interesting because they're not quite viruses like you or I would get and catch if we're having a flu or a cold virus. It's a different type of virus that was injected into them. And this is also really important to understand is they don't have to inject millions and billions because that's how ticks reproduce. They reproduce in such high numbers, and their antibodies have such strength that they're very, very difficult to kill. Okay. And they're even more difficult to eradicate. So what happens is there were a group of humans um, who came up with the idea, and it's important to understand their intention behind their idea, okay, was to ultimately gain control, oh boy, of the human mind. Oh, that didn't feel good. Okay. And I'm talking about the energy when I say that didn't feel good. So just give me a minute. So their intention was to control the human mind. Now, the fastest way for them to control the human mind is water on the planet. So because water flows everywhere, and no matter how humans try to trap it, how to try to change it, water moves of its own universal accord. Okay. And so it's constantly moving, not only surfacely, but it's moving through the core of the earth. And your brain may be like, oh, it's too hot in the core of the earth. Well, they're showing me that it moves through not only the core of the earth, but it's the atmosphere of earth itself that water speaks to and speaks with. Okay. So now they've used water as a, um, sorry, this is just not where I thought we were going today. Not that I thought we were going anywhere, but this is like completely taken me by surprise. So just bear with me here. Um, so ultimately, water was poisoned, it was harmed intentionally to, again, facilitate mind control. Okay. What kind of mind control? It's through limiting your brain's ability to perceive truth. That's mind control. And that's how they use it. Okay. So what happens is when you're now having a conversation, anything can sound like truth if the story is convincing enough. So this is what happened. And in using water, you know, they made sure they created systems where water would consistently be contaminated over and over and over again. Why? Well, because like humans, water is also self-healing. And so as a self-healing structure, okay, it's it has to be continuously attacked, if you will. Okay. And so when they realize this, because this has been going on for thousands of years. Okay. And so that contamination, that poisoning of human existence has been going on for thousands of years. Well, they're showing me even tens of thousands of years. And so ultimately, they wanted to come up with it's not a backup plan. In their minds, they wanted a better plan because they realized that human antibodies that align with the vibration of water were actually self-healing faster than the poison was coming in. Okay. But that being said, that means that humans are constantly under attack. So every single time you put water into your body, okay? But it's not just drinking water. It's if you're out in rain, if you're swimming, if you're having a shower in your home and the water's coming through you. It's also if you're eating food that's been grown in water, with water. You're constantly being infected with brain altering and the word they're using is virus, but I want you to understand that it's not bacteria. Okay. The virus that they're talking about, it's viral in the sense that it does actually impact the brain. It attacks the brain. And how does it do that? And why does it do that? So how it does it is these particles, these like teeny nanoparticles actually eat away at the brain. So there's a whole bunch of different ones. And they're showing me like these things have been proven, like what do you call that? When they cloud seeding, there's a lot of different things where we know it's documented. They're actually, releasing toxins into the air, justifying it by it's going to help make sure that there's rain for all of these areas that wouldn't necessarily have rain. And so what happens is these nanoparticles are like the way they're showing me, they're like Pac-Mans. If you've ever seen that video game where, it's just the little face and it's just, and they're eating. And so what that means is that's what it's doing to your brain cells. Now, it's not quite like this is your brain and this is your brain on drugs commercial, the visual that we've all seen where the egg and then the egg is cracked. Okay. This is understanding that there are compounds in existence that, when combined together, eat, literally eat away at good cells. Okay. And what I mean by good cells are the ones that are healthy, the ones that are healing, the ones that are self-healing. Okay. So even though all of your cells are self-healing, there are those that become infected with disease as a result of the world we live in. And what the intention behind these mass viruses, and again, it's not it's not like how they spread COVID. That was a fundamentally different experience. Okay. This is understanding that they wanted to test theories of if they could break the human immune system, if they could break it, if they could break that self-healing pattern. And they did, but it actually took like a few thousand steps because they thought maybe we could do it in 2 or 3 steps, right? It's kind of like the manipulation of the whole human existence. This is just one aspect of it. And that's really important to understand, is attacking the physical was just one aspect of it, right? We know all the conditioning. We've talked about that a lot in the first 96 parts of the story of creation, but also it's all over the place, right? This is not the only place you're hearing it. But what they're talking about now is understanding that the original creation of viruses came from an intent to harm the human biome. Okay. And so what did that mean? That that meant that first they had to remove humans' conscious awareness that we're self-healing, which means not only are we self-healing, but we understand who we are, why we exist, where we come from. We know our origins, we know our roots, we know how our cells work, we know how they engage and how they work together. But here's the other part. We also know how we communicate with each other, because that's vital information. And so it's like trees. When you have a forest and a forest starts being infected, all the trees talk to each other. And it's not just through roots, it's through frequency and vibration. Well, humans do the same thing. So if one human in a home is infected with a virus, okay, the virus talks to the other humans, but also the cells of all the humans are talking to each other all the time. Okay. This is why they're going to explain everything in one shot. This is great. Okay. So this is why collectively we get sick at the same time, right? How, in a household, everyone can come down with it. And sometimes there will be one or two that won't get it. The reality is we experience viruses at a rate that is dependent upon two things. First, the extent of the intention of the virus, and second, the capacity for the body to withstand the attack. So it's always twofold. And the body's ability to withstand is based upon its capacity to perform under stress. Now, that capacity to perform is reflective of what's happening internally, how many attacks it's had, and the thing is we don't relate attacks to things we put in our mouth, right? We don't look at how we eat, what we eat as attacks on our immune system, attacks on our capacity to self-heal. We just think, oh my gosh, I want that brownie because it looks so good. And I love brownies and I'm just going to give myself this treat because it's yummy. But we don't see putting a brownie in our mouth as attacking ourselves. And so now what is coming out, right? What they want to come to the forefront is an understanding that you can see, like, this is the current conversation that's happening, right? People are much more aware of what they eat, what they put in their body. But now it's understanding that it's not only what, like the physical thing that you're putting in your body, it's the frequency and vibration of that thing that you're putting in your body. And the frequency and vibration of it is impacted by how it has been treated. Okay. This is where it gets, I mean, it's so woven together. It's so intricate. It's very simple, but there's so many layers of manipulation involved that they're impacting all levels of creation itself. And this is really important. This is why they had to remove the wisdom of our knowledge, right? Our ability to comprehend and understand our own existence. So they had to remove that. And then they had to remove the history of our origins from our conscious awareness. Well, it's really easy if you attack the brain in a way that shrinks its potential to perform. So it's not by chance and it's not a mystery that the human mind really participates at about 4 to 5, maybe 7 or 8% in some people. But for the most part, it's about a 5% participation rate. This is because there are so many particles of the way they're showing me, it's like nanotechnologies, right? That are sitting in the brain waiting to participate. Ha, what does that even mean? Right? It means that when chemicals, and these are not just like, the skull and crossbones chemicals that you see on certain bottles, right? These are everyday chemicals that, they've studied. And when I say they, I mean the people whose intent is to harm human existence, okay? So they've studied and they understand that certain chemicals, when mixed, impact the human body and the human cells in a way that blocks them from performing. So all they had to do was create a system, okay, that continuously fed the body's inability to perform. And that's what they did. So all of these so-called, you know, how do I like systems to, help with farming, systems to help with irrigation, systems to help with um, uh, not climate control, weather control, right? All of these systems have strategically been designed by those who understand the human biome. And that's a hard one to digest, actually, personally, as understanding and recognizing that it actually was purposely done. And there's a lot of people, like we understand, right? Like during the war, they used these chemicals to fight in the war, and then they had a surplus of them when they came back, and they decided, well, we'll just use it as sweeteners in food because, if we keep a little dose, it's not so bad. All of this was planned, all of it, from beginning to end. Yep, makes me a little nauseous. So just it makes me nauseous because it's one of those things where it's like we already knew that, we suspected it, and it's just being confirmed. And so this isn't a let's poison them because now we have an oversupply. It's recognizing that they created it originally to poison. But more than that, They created the war as a tool to ensure there was enough poison, right? The war, all the wars. And this goes back thousands and thousands of years. Like this is not just in the last couple hundred years, guys. Okay. This is like all the way back to um, the original intention of this manipulation, like this iteration of manipulation. And so the reason they're telling us this is where we're coming to. Okay. The reason they're telling us this is so that you can accept the truth of how this has unfolded. Because until you really understand the depth of the attack against humanity, and this is not, it's not like a Hollywood attack, okay, where it's staged in the sense of, the attack is to take down the enemy. That's not how their intention was. Their intention was, how far can we go before they break? We want to see if we can control the mind of humans. That's it. But it's understanding, and why I say it that way, okay, this is really important. It's understanding that your job isn't to go, oh my God, I'm so angry at them for doing this to us, because that reaction is what we've been taught to have and to hold and to, that's the action we've been taught. Why? Every single movie where there's a war, it all of a sudden is one side against the other. That's what they want. Because when you're fighting against them, you'll never win. Why? Because the system they set up is so strategic and so infinite. It's almost as infinite as consciousness itself. Why? Because they used consciousness to create it, because they had full awareness. That's how they created it, guys. So it's understanding that the only way this can be restored, all of the abilities can be restored, is by coming back into a state of consciousness, but also understanding how consciousness works, how existence works, how creation works. Because if you don't understand those, you're going to consistently be angry at everybody else, exactly like they taught you to be. So your vibration isn't powerful. You have no capacity to change anything because you're not holding the frequency and vibration of universal truth in existence. You're holding the low frequency and vibration of anger and resentment, and I need truth. I need answers. That doesn't get you anywhere. So they created, so we're going to go back to ticks for a minute. They created this system, okay, with these conscious beings, because ticks are conscious beings, with the understanding that these teeny little beings had the capacity to infiltrate the human experience in ways that they were like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Like we can inject humans and we don't even have to do it. We don't even have to get them to line up to come and take this injection. We'll just, get them when they're out in nature. And that's how the concept began. And then they studied it for extended periods of time. What do we need to do? What do we need to learn? How do we need to understand the behavior of ticks. We need to understand the behavior of humans. We need to understand the frequency and vibration between the two, the relationship, and how we can program, and that's a very specific word, how we can program the tick's consciousness to inject into human beings. It's very similar to the same one. It's very similar, not same. It's very similar to the one that they used with mosquitoes. Now, why bugs? Why insects? Because the consciousness in insects is the most easily mutable, controllable. Its intelligence is okay. So if you think about a human being and then you think about a tick, right? comparison in size, but in frequency and vibration, it's understanding that for a tick's number of cells, it multiplies by trillions and quadrillion, whatever the heck the numbers are, that humans have. So they have a lot less cells to program than if they were just naturally doing it directly with humans. Okay. Now, but they've also been like, it's important to understand that, right? Like through water, specifically, water is the greatest source of poison on the planet. So ultimately, humans have been hit from all sides. Okay. I'm not here and I'm not telling you this. They want to be really, really clear. We're not telling you this so that you feel backed into a corner and you feel like you're, being annihilated. That's not why they're telling you. We're telling you because we know you're at the capacity to withstand this level of truth now. That's why they're telling you, because you have the capacity to not freak out and go, oh my God, they did this to us and we can't do anything. We're powerless and we're going to die. That's not it. Okay. That's not what they're doing. Why they're telling you now is because you're at the capacity to understand the severity, okay, and the lengths that they went to control and manipulate humanity. But here's the really cool thing. Now we start to see how intricate this plan was, how finite not only did their information have to be, but it tells us that's how intricately created humans are. That's how powerful humans are. You are. That's how intricate and infinite the creation of your existence is. And why they're telling you is because this wisdom that is shared is meant to trigger your need and your willingness to participate in rediscovering your history, your origins, your reason for existence. That's why we're telling you. Not because you're in trouble and you're on the verge or the brink of mass destruction, because you're at the brink of massive transformation. And all it will take is for you to remember the truth of your own existence. And this is not truth that you have to sit in a library and study with books for thousands of years to catch up. It's information that it's stronger than telepathy. It just will flow from universal existence into you. But you have to allow it. You have to be open to that truth. That's it. That information can literally be transmitted instantaneously. The reason it isn't currently is because you don't recognize you have that level of power to receive universal information directly from consciousness. Number one. Number two, you're not in a place where you believe you personally, as an individual in the human race, aren't important or valuable or special, or you don't have the capacity to receive that information directly yourself. Those two beliefs block you from restoring your body's ability to self-heal and your capacity to receive information directly from universal beings, not from me. I'm just sharing it until you remember yourself. That's it. That's all I'm doing. But at the same time, I'm also giving you all the keys so you can remember, right? That's what this is. This is, I know you can do this because I've done it, but also I'm going to give you the information until you can do it yourself. No big deal. Why? Because it's so important to have both. Because when you have more information about yourself, it increases your drive and your desire and your willingness to participate. Why? Because you become extremely curious about who you are when you start to actually hear truth, when you start to experience truth, and when you start to recognize it out in your daily day. I can't even talk. I'm like, the energy is so big, but in your day-to-day life. So the reality is all those hunches that something isn't right here with viruses, something isn't right here with ticks and tick bites, and why are they so predominant in the society that we currently live in? You're bang on. You're 100% right. We've been poisoned strategically over and over and over again. Does it mean you shouldn't go out and play in nature for the chance that you could possibly get a tick? Nope. No, it doesn't. It means you have the capacity to self-heal. You have the capacity to raise your frequency and vibration above the frequency and vibration that ticks are currently vibrating at. They're aligned with. And when you align with a higher vibration, they can't touch you. They can't touch you. They may come into contact with you and they'll be rejected. They'll bounce right off. That's how it works. That's how universal energy works. So your job isn't to figure out, okay, how can I make them bounce off me? Your job is to go, who am I and what am I capable of? Because that's how you raise your frequency and vibration, by remembering the truth of your own existence, by continuously feeding your brain, your cells, your energy with universal truth. How do you do that? By being open to every concept, even when they challenge the foundation of the life you've created, when they challenge the foundation of the relationships that you've created in your life. It's time for you to experience all the universe has to offer, not just this little tiny perspective of window of what you're capable of in existence. No, you're capable of everything and all of it, all at the same time. And it's time you not only accept that, but it's time for you to start exploring it. I know that there are going to be people that are going to want to challenge this concept left, right, and center. And that's great. I'm not interested in arguing with them because the ones who want to argue aren't ready to experience and increase their frequency and vibration, right? That anger is exactly what we've been trained to do. Fight against a system. Fight. And if people want to fight against me, I'm not interested. So guys, this is your opportunity. This is your chance to raise your vibration to the level where you restore your body's capacity for self-healing in a way that allows you to base your existence off of the original intention and frequency and vibration of universal existence. It's big. It's a whole bunch of words. I get it. But it's actually really, really simple. Because as a soul, that was your original experience for billions and billions of years. Billions and billions of years. That is how you existed in this life. It's only in the past, 50,000 years that we've lived under this level of control and manipulation. Before that, it wasn't. So all those ancient civilizations you've heard about, they lived in balance. They're gone for different reasons, but we're going to get there. This story of creation can't be told overnight, right? I've been telling it for a year now. We're only at part 97. I know that there's going to be parts and parts and parts to come. And I'm choosing to show up. I'm choosing to continue to tell this story, no matter how angry it makes people or how frustrated, because the truth has to get out there. You're ready for it. You're willing to participate in a new way. So notice if you've got anger, and then change your focus. Change your focus because you have the capacity to self-heal in ways that you don't know yet. You don't understand yet. Yet is the key. So that's your exploration. We're going to go into all of it. Don't worry about it. Right now, we're just laying the truth. We're laying the foundation so that you can accept more truth in. That is what the story of creation has been about. If you're having trouble receiving this level of truth today, I encourage you to go back to part one and listen all the way through, because that is the foundation. And I can tell you, I've been doing this live with a live audience right from the beginning. And I have an incredible community of humans who are awake and open and ready to participate in this level of truth. The questions that they ask are because they're curious about their potential and their ability to work together. And what I mean by work together is when you ask questions that, there may be shame or guilt around, they don't care because they're not feeding their shame and guilt anymore. Their only focus is truth. And we're doing it together. And it is an incredible, incredible experience. That's why I know people are ready for this. So, your goal today, as you're listening, as you're watching, as you're going through your life, start to focus on and start to feel into, what is my body capable of? What are my cells capable of? And what conscious awareness was I created with that I have the ability to restore in me? Okay? Let it sit. Let yourself feel into it. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, share this with anyone that's questioned any aspect of viruses or ticks. And I know these explanations are not super finite, right? They're not like scientific, what's the experiments? They're universal truth. And they're designed strategically in a way to layer truth, one truth after another, so that your brain can accept this level of information. Okay. So it's not to harm, it's not to create fear. And if there is fear, that's okay. Fear comes up, but it's being able to recognize that there's fear and you're still going to go in the direction of truth instead of anger. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.